terrible tragedy happened that caused outrage and haunted the people here. On an early autumn morning, the lifeless body of Selina Hughes was found in her car, parked on a secluded road just outside town. Selina, a cherished kindergarten teacher, had vanished 2 days prior, leaving behind a distraught husband and a community in shock. Her husband, Otis Hughes, a mild-mannered accountant, had been frantic with worry, his anxiety clear in the tremor of his voice when he reported her missing to the police. The grim discovery of Selina's body turned his worst fears into a living nightmare. Otis was not the only man of interest in the investigation. Clement Edwards and Neil Martin, both of whom had been intimately involved with Selina, quickly drew the attention of the detectives. Each man harbored deep and complicated feelings for her. The case was assigned to Detective Vera Taylor, a seasoned investigator, known for her sharp intellect and relentless pursuit of justice. As Taylor delved into Selina's life and her entangled relationships with Otis, Clement, and Neil, she uncovered a labyrinth of secrets and betrayals beneath the seemingly straightforward facade. The story of Selina Hughes's death was not merely a tragic end, but a complex saga of love, deceit, and vengeance. It was a crisp morning when Officer Alger Jones received a call about an abandoned vehicle on the outskirts of Oakwood. As he approached the scene, the sight of Selina Hughes's car sent a chill down his spine. The car was parked haphazardly, one wheel on the gravel shoulder, the other on the grassy verge. The windows were fogged, and the faintest hint of a foul odor wafted through the air. Harris peered through the driver's window and recoiled. Selina Hughes was slumped over the steering wheel, her skin was pale, and a faint trickle of blood had dried on her temple. The immediate cause of death was not apparent, but the scene suggested foul play. The small community of Oakwood buzzed with shock and sorrow as news of the discovery spread. Selina had been missing for 48 hours, and her friends and family had clung to hope that she would return unharmed. Now that hope was cruelly dashed. Otis Hughes was inconsolable, his grief magnified by the public scrutiny he now faced. He had been the one to report Selina missing, and now he was thrust into the center of a murder investigation. Detective Vera Taylor arrived at the scene, her expression grim. She meticulously inspected the car and the surrounding area, noting the lack of defensive wounds on Selina's body and the absence of a struggle. This suggested she might have been unconscious or incapacitated before her death. A preliminary examination revealed traces of a powdery substance on the passenger seat, which would later be identified as a potent sedative. Taylor ordered the car to be towed to the forensic lab for a thorough examination and instructed her team to canvass the area for witnesses. The investigation had just begun, but the pressure to find answers was immense. The community wanted justice for Selina, and the police were determined to provide it. The Oakwood Police Department quickly mobilized to investigate Selina Hughes's death. Detective Taylor spearheaded the effort, her no-nonsense attitude setting the tone for the team. The first order of business was to question Otis Hughes, whose proximity to the victim made him an initial person of interest. Otis was brought in for questioning at the station. He looked haggard, dark circles under his eyes betraying sleepless nights. Detective Taylor began with routine questions about his relationship with Selina, their recent activities, and his whereabouts during the time she was missing. Otis explained that he and Selina had been married for 5 years, a seemingly happy couple in the eyes of the community. He recounted the night Selina disappeared. She had left the house around 7 or 8 p.m., claiming she needed to run some errands. When she didn't return, he grew worried and called the police the next morning. Taylor noted his demeanor, searching for signs of deception. Otis provided an alibi, stating he was home watching TV that night. He offered to let the police verify his story with their home security system's footage. Taylor made a mental note to follow up on this lead. As the interview progressed, another name surfaced: Clement Edwards. According to Otis, Clement was a close friend of Selina's, someone she had known for years. Otis admitted he had always felt a bit uneasy about their relationship, but had no concrete reason to suspect anything untoward. Detective Taylor decided to pay Clement a visit. Clement Edwards, a tall man in his early 30s radiating effortless confidence, greeted the detectives at his door. His face fell upon learning of Selina's death, adamantly claiming they were merely friends. Yet his restless movements hinted at deeper secrets. The investigation then expanded to include Neil Martin, a local artist frequently seen with Selina. In his mid-40s, Neil was notorious for his brooding nature and reclusive habits. Unlike Clement, Neil was evasive, dodging direct questions with vague and cryptic replies. Detective Taylor felt a strong sense that both men were concealing vital truths. The threads of Selina's life began to unravel, revealing a woman who was far more complex and enigmatic than anyone had realized. With each interview, the investigation grew more convoluted, and the stakes became higher. The truth about Selina's death was buried beneath layers of secrets, and it was up to Taylor to dig them out. Selina Hughes was born and raised in Oakwood, a town she loved and never wanted to leave. She was known for her warm smile and her ability to connect with people, traits that made her an excellent kindergarten teacher. Her marriage to Otis was seen as a match made in heaven, though those closest to her knew there was more beneath the surface. Selina met Otis at a charity event 5 years ago. Otis, an accountant with a stable job and a kind heart, seemed like the perfect partner. They married within a year, and for a while their life together appeared idyllic. But over time, Selina began to feel restless. The routine of married life left her yearning for something more. Enter Clement Edwards. Clement and Selina had been friends since high school. Their bond had always been strong, and there were times when their friendship seemed to border on something deeper. Clement, a charming and successful entrepreneur, offered Selina the excitement and passion she felt was missing from her marriage. Their relationship, while initially platonic, soon evolved into a secret affair. Selina found herself torn between the security Otis provided and the thrill she experienced with Clement. Her feelings for Clement were intense, but they also brought complications and guilt. Then there was Neil Martin. Neil was a local artist known for his moody paintings and reclusive nature. Selina met Neil at an art exhibition a year before her death. Neil was different from both Otis and Clement. He was mysterious and brooding, qualities that fascinated Selina. Their connection was immediate, and it wasn't long before Selina found herself involved with Neil as well. Selina's relationships with Clement and Neil were known only to a few close friends, and she took great pains to keep them hidden from Otis. However, managing these affairs became increasingly difficult, and Selina's life grew more complicated. She loved each of these men in different ways, and each offered her something unique. But she also knew that this web of love and deceit could not last forever. As Detective Taylor delved deeper into Selina's background, she discovered a woman who was passionate and vibrant, but also deeply conflicted. Selina's need for connection and excitement had led her down a dangerous path, one that ultimately ended in her untimely death. With Selina's body discovered and her secret life beginning to surface, suspicion naturally fell on Otis Hughes. Detective Taylor scrutinized his alibi, seeking any inconsistencies that might indicate his involvement in his wife's death. Otis's alibi rested on his claim that he was at home the night Selina disappeared, watching TV and later falling asleep on the couch. The home security footage confirmed that Otis had not left the house during the critical hours. However, Taylor was not entirely convinced. She knew that alibis could be fabricated or manipulated. The state of the Hughes' marriage became a focal point of the investigation. Friends and neighbors painted a picture of a couple that appeared happy but had their share of issues. Financial records showed that the Hughes were struggling with debt, a potential motive for Otis to want his wife out of the picture. Life insurance policies on Selina further added to the suspicion, though the amounts were not exorbitant. Otis's demeanor during questioning was another point of concern. While his grief seemed genuine, there were moments when his responses were too measured, too controlled. Taylor wondered if he was hiding something or simply trying to protect himself from being wrongfully accused. The most damning piece of evidence was a series of text messages exchanged between Otis and Selina in the days leading up to her disappearance. The messages revealed growing tension between them, with Selina expressing dissatisfaction and Otis responding with frustration. The arguments, though not overtly violent, indicated a marriage under significant strain. Otis's interactions with Clement and Neil also raised red flags. Both men admitted to having confrontations with Otis, who had become increasingly suspicious of their relationships with Selina. Otis denied any knowledge of Selina's affairs, but his anger towards the men was palpable. As the investigation progressed, Otis Hughes remained a prime suspect. His potential motives, financial gain, marital discord, and jealousy, provided enough cause for Detective Taylor to keep a close watch on him. However, without concrete evidence linking him directly to the crime, the case against him remained circumstantial. Clement Edwards and Neil Martin, the two men who had shared intimate relationships with Selina, were next on Detective Taylor's list. Each had their own reasons for wanting Selina in their lives, and potentially reasons for wanting her gone. Clement Edwards, with his charismatic demeanor and successful career, seemed an unlikely suspect at first glance. He had been Selina's confidant for years, their bond evolving into a romantic relationship that brought both joy and complications. Clement's feelings for Selina were genuine, but his frustration with her indecision and the secrecy of their affair had caused tension. During questioning, Clement admitted to feeling hurt and betrayed when he discovered Selina's involvement with Neil, but he vehemently denied having anything to do with her death. Neil Martin was a different story. Known for his brooding personality and artistic temperament, Neil had always been somewhat of an enigma. His relationship with Selina was intense and passionate, but also fraught with jealousy and possessiveness. Neil's art often reflected his tumultuous emotions, and his interactions with Selina had been no exception. During his interview, Neil was evasive, his answers tinged with bitterness. He expressed deep sorrow over Selina's death, but also a lingering resentment towards her for being unable to fully commit to him. Taylor noted the contrasts between Clement and Neil, one a polished, successful businessman, the other a moody, introspective artist. Both had motives driven by love and jealousy, and both had been deeply affected by Selina's actions. The detective also discovered that Clement and Neil had confronted each other on several occasions, their arguments escalating as Selina's relationships with them became more entangled. The investigation into Clement and Neil's backgrounds revealed more layers to Selina's story. Each man had been drawn to Selina's vivacious personality and warmth, but both had also experienced the darker sides of their relationships with her. The complexity of these relationships suggested that Selina's death was not a straightforward case of jealousy or revenge, but rather a culmination of many conflicting emotions and desires. As Detective Taylor continued to unravel the intricacies of Selina's life and relationships, she realized that the truth was buried deep within a web of passion, betrayal, and hidden motives. The challenge was to untangle these threads and find the one that would lead to Selina's killer. As Detective Taylor delved deeper into the intertwined lives of Selina, Otis, Clement, and Neil, she unearthed a series of shocking revelations and secrets that began to illuminate the complexities of Selina's world. The first significant breakthrough came from Selina's confidant, Oriana Clark. Oriana disclosed that Selina had been sharing her marital struggles and the chaos stemming from her entanglements with Clement and Neil for months. Selina felt increasingly suffocated and overwhelmed by the dual burdens of upholding her marriage and juggling her affairs. Oriana also revealed that Selina had confided in her about fears of being stalked, although she never identified the individual. This new information prompted Taylor to re-examine the evidence with fresh eyes. The possibility of a third-party involvement, someone who knew about Selina's affairs and had a vested interest in her demise, became a compelling angle. Taylor ordered a deeper investigation into Selina's communications and social media, looking for any signs of threats or suspicious activity. The forensic analysis of Selina's car provided another crucial piece of the puzzle. Traces of the sedative found in the passenger seat matched a prescription registered to Neil Martin. When confronted with this evidence, Neil's calm facade began to crack. He admitted to having the sedative but claimed he had no intention of harming Selina. According to Neil, Selina had asked him for the sedative to help her sleep, a claim that was difficult to verify. Further complicating the investigation was a discovery in Clement's financial records. Large sums of money had been transferred between Clement's accounts and an unknown third party over the past few months. Clement explained that these were business transactions, but the lack of clear documentation raised suspicion. Taylor wondered if Clement might have been involved in some form of blackmail or had hired someone to intimidate Selina. The pressure on all three men intensified as Taylor continued to piece together Selina's last days. Interviews with neighbors and colleagues revealed that Selina had been planning to leave Oakwood, possibly to escape the tangled relationship she had found herself in. She had been seen packing boxes into her car and had mentioned to a colleague that she needed a fresh start. Then came the biggest revelation of all, a hidden journal found in Selina's belongings. The journal contained detailed accounts of her relationships with Otis, Clement and Neil, as well as her fears and plans for the future. Selina wrote about feeling suffocated by Otis's controlling nature, exhilarated by her affair with Clement, and deeply conflicted about her intense connection with Neil. She also mentioned receiving anonymous threats, which she suspected were from someone who knew about her affairs. The journal painted a picture of a woman caught in a web of her own making, desperate to break free but unsure how. It provided Detective Taylor with critical insights into Selina's state of mind and the potential motives of those around her. With this new evidence, Taylor felt she was finally closing in on the truth. Just as Detective Taylor thought she was getting closer to solving the case, a surprising twist emerged that shifted the focus of the investigation. A new piece of evidence surfaced. A security camera recording from a nearby convenience store that showed Selina in the company of a man who was neither Otis, Clement, nor Neil on the night she disappeared. The man in the footage was identified as Drake Evans, a former colleague of Selina's from a previous job in a neighboring town. Evans had a checkered past, including a history of violent behavior and a restraining order filed against him by a former girlfriend. The discovery of his involvement with Selina added a new layer of complexity to the case. Taylor brought Evans in for questioning. Evans, a wiry man with a nervous energy, initially denied having seen Selina recently. However, when confronted with the video evidence, he changed his story. He admitted to meeting Selina that night but claimed they had only talked. According to Evans, Selina had reached out to him because she felt threatened and needed someone to confide in. She had asked Evans to meet her away from Oakwood to avoid being seen by anyone who might know her. Evans's account seemed plausible, but Taylor was wary. Evans had a motive: his unrequited feelings for Selina and his jealousy over her relationships with other men. His past behavior suggested he could be capable of violence, especially if he felt rejected or betrayed. Taylor decided to dig deeper into Evans's background and his interactions with Selina. Meanwhile, forensic analysis of Evans's car revealed traces of the same sedative found in Selina's vehicle. This new evidence linked Evans directly to the scene of the crime, making him a prime suspect. Evans's story began to unravel under the weight of mounting evidence. He confessed that he had given Selina the sedative, but insisted it was for her own protection, claiming she had asked for it to calm her nerves. Detective Taylor knew that Evans's involvement complicated the narrative, but she also suspected there was more to the story. Evans's account of events didn't entirely align with the evidence. Taylor hypothesized that Evans might have been manipulated by someone else, possibly Clement or Neil, to carry out the crime. The idea of a larger conspiracy began to take shape. As Taylor continued to press Evans for details, he revealed a startling detail. He had been receiving anonymous payments over the past few months, just like Clement. Evans claimed he didn't know who was behind the payments, but admitted they were meant to ensure his silence about his meetings with Selina. This revelation pointed to a coordinated effort to keep Selina's secrets hidden. Taylor realized that the investigation had taken a dark turn, one that involved not just a crime of passion, but a calculated plan to silence Selina permanently. The pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to fit together, and Taylor was determined to uncover the mastermind behind the plot. The investigation took a sinister turn as Detective Taylor unraveled the web of deception surrounding Selina's death. The revelation of anonymous payments and Evans's involvement hinted at a larger, more nefarious plot. Taylor now had to consider the possibility that Selina's death was not just a crime of passion, but a premeditated murder orchestrated by someone with a hidden agenda. Taylor's team focused on tracing the source of the payments. Financial records showed a series of transactions funneled through a shell company, eventually leading to an offshore account. The intricate financial trail suggested a high level of planning and resourcefulness, characteristics not typically associated with crimes of passion. This new lead pointed towards someone with significant financial acumen and the means to cover their tracks, potentially Clement Edwards, given his business background. Taylor revisited Clement, armed with the new evidence. Under intense questioning, Clement's confident facade began to crack. He admitted to transferring money to Evans, but insisted it was to help Selina, not harm her. He claimed Selina had confided in him about her fears and asked him to arrange for protection, but he had no idea Evans would misuse the funds. Taylor was not convinced by Clement's explanation. She suspected that Clement, feeling cornered by Selina's indecision and the threat of their affair being exposed, had orchestrated a plan to remove her from the equation. However, Clement alone could not have executed such a complex scheme. The involvement of Neil Martin, with his volatile emotions and connection to Selina, seemed likely. Confronting Neil, Taylor presented the evidence of the sedative and the financial transactions. Neil, already unstable, broke down under the pressure. He confessed to being manipulated by Clement, who had convinced him that Selina was planning to leave both of them and expose their affairs. In a desperate bid to prevent this, Neil agreed to Clement's plan to sedate Selina and make her disappear. The dark truth emerged. Clement had orchestrated the entire plot, using Neil and Evans as pawns to carry out his plan. Clement's motive was not just jealousy, but a calculated decision to eliminate Selina and protect his reputation and business interests. Neil, driven by his emotional turmoil, had been an unwitting accomplice, and Evans, lured by money, had played his part without fully understanding the consequences. Taylor's investigation had uncovered a chilling conspiracy that highlighted the lengths people would go to protect their secrets and desires. The case was far more complex and darker than anyone had initially imagined, revealing the depths of human deceit and treachery. With the pieces of the puzzle finally falling into place, Detective Taylor moved swiftly to secure arrest warrants for Clement Edwards and Neil Martin. The evidence against them was overwhelming: financial transactions, confessions, and the forensic link between the sedative and Neil. Taylor coordinated with her team to ensure that the arrests were conducted smoothly and without incident. Neil Martin was the first to be apprehended. He was found at his studio, surrounded by his hauntingly dark paintings. The arresting officers found him in a state of disarray, his guilt and regret evident. Neil offered no resistance, murmuring apologies and asking about Selina's final moments. His remorse was genuine, but it could not absolve him of his role in the crime. Clement Edwards proved more challenging. He had anticipated the arrest and attempted to flee. However, a coordinated effort by the Oakwood Police Department ensured he was apprehended at a private airstrip, trying to board a chartered plane. His arrest was marked by defiance and indignation, maintaining his innocence and accusing the police of fabricating evidence. With both suspects in custody, the prosecution began to build a robust case. The trial that followed was one of the most sensational in Oakwood's history, drawing intense media attention. The courtroom was packed with townspeople, journalists, and those who had known Selina. The prosecution presented a compelling narrative of manipulation, betrayal, and murder, while the defense tried to paint Clement as a victim of circumstance and Neil as a man driven to desperation. The jury deliberated for several days, weighing the extensive evidence and emotional testimonies. Ultimately, both Clement Edwards and Neil Martin were found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and second-degree murder. Clement received a life sentence without the possibility of parole, while Neil, whose genuine remorse and cooperation were considered, was given a reduced sentence of 25 years. Drake Evans, whose role was more peripheral, was charged with accessory to murder and received a lesser sentence of 10 years. His involvement, though significant, was viewed as being coerced by the primary conspirators. Selina Hughes's case brings many valuable lessons to everyone. First of all, it reminds us of the importance of honesty and transparency in relationships. Selina tried to maintain many secret relationships, leading to complicated consequences and inevitable tragedy. Dishonesty and secrecy can be deeply damaging not only to yourself, but also to those around you. Second, this case highlights the importance of listening and caring for loved ones. Selina's husband, Otis, and others close to her failed to recognize her signs of difficulty and anxiety, leading her to seek help from others. Third, this case also highlights that greed and jealousy can lead to terrifying and destructive actions. Clement Edwards and Neil Martin, caught up in a complicated relationship with Selina, allowed negative emotions to take over and led to criminal behavior. Follow our channel to discover dramatic and mysterious true cases. Join us to investigate, analyze, and find out the truth behind each story. Register now to not miss the most interesting content. Thanks for watching.